The following is a Papi Chulo Radio original program. The views and opinions expressed in the commentaries and/or interviews in the following program are solely those of the individuals and are not views of Papi Chulo Radio, its parent, affiliate, or subsidiary companies.
Welcome to Storybrooke Weekly Mirror in Wonderland, the unofficial Once Upon a Time in Wonderland internet radio show exclusively on PapiChuloRadio.com. Papi Chulo Radio, pop culture on demand. I'm your host, Papi Chulo. During tonight's broadcast, we're going to revisit ABC's Once Upon a Time in Wonderland. Later on in the broadcast, get ready for a spoiler alert as we bring you the hit ABC series' Easter eggs and ratings. So please welcome my wondrous co-hosts. First up, she's on your side of the board. It's Katie Cat.
Oh yes, I'm definitely on your side of the board, as long as you're not a villain or anything like that. Hey guys, hope you're doing good tonight.
And she has a secret wish. It's Jess.
I am bobbing my eyebrows up and down so hard right now. Hi guys!
She just wants to be a real girl. That's all she wants. She's tired of being a puppet.
Aww. I've been a puppet for years, in a display case beside all the Funko Pops that have better paint jobs than I do, which is terrible because a lot of Funko Pops have terrible paint jobs, but I still love them. I love them. They're my friends. Aww. They're my sons and daughters. Oh, I'm a real girl, people, please.
But at least you're a ginger.
Not anymore.
Oh, okay, well. There's that, listeners. So on that note, let's jump into our recap of episode 1.08, which was titled Home, and originally aired December 12th, 2013. Here's the official synopsis of what was, at the time, the mid-season finale of Once Upon a Time in Wonderland. In flashback, we learn about Cyrus's origin story while Alice seeks out the White Rabbit for answers involving his actions in Wonderland. Meanwhile, the Red Queen and Jafar's disdain for one another comes to a head, followed by a series of chaotic events. The insurmountable consequence caused by their showdown will put everyone in danger and lead to a drastic change. Alright, so that sounds pretty damn heavy. So I want to get everyone's initial take on what we saw on what was the mid-season finale of Once Upon a Time in Wonderland, the episode Home. So I'll start off. I thought this was a really strong episode with a very intriguing cliffhanger and I remember watching this at the time and like being like, what the frack did I just see? And like, how does this not change everything? Because it was a very dramatic shift at the end. The episode, the flashback was okay. I mean, I would say it was more so a White Rabbit flashback than sort of like an Alice and Cyrus flashback. It was interesting, but it wasn't the best per se, but some of what happened in the flashback certainly affected what was going on in the present day storyline, which was really interesting nonetheless. What did you think of the episode, your initial thoughts on it? Katie?
I really liked it. This is definitely, you could tell it was a mid-season finale because of the cliffhanger for sure, which was a super interesting way to end it. It just kind of left you hanging like, okay, what's going to happen now? It's going to change a lot of dynamics for our characters. And it did. I mean, it did. But it was an interesting way to end it, and I really liked it. And the flashbacks were okay. I actually did enjoy them a lot, mainly for Cyrus because he was
He's your
pretty
boo thing.
attractive. I mean, come on. Any excuse to get his face on the screen a little bit more is okay by me. But
Katie's gonna have a genie baby.
Oh, okay. Apparently I am. But it was a good flashback, and we got to see more of the rabbit, which was cool. We got to see his family, which was super interesting, and kind of see why he's been complying with the villain's wishes. So it was good. It was a really good mid-season finale, I guess.
Speaking of wishes, I wished that Jess was a real girl. So now that you're a real girl, Jess, can you please give us your initial take on this episode?
Oh my god, my limbs move like butter. It's fantastic. But yes, no, the episode. That was great.
I think that's what Paula Dean says every morning.
Oh my gosh. Is that shade?
Maybe a little bit.
That's a little bit of shade. See, are you proud of recognizing what shade is already? I'm becoming hip to your American slang.
Yes, that now you know what I'm talking about.
Oh my goodness.
Sorry.
But is there really a difference? Anyway, sorry for derailing. But I personally found this episode emotional and very relatable with the themes, and I think that they came across very clear and very concise, and it reminded me of the Tim Burton Alice in Wonderland movie where I think the dog's name is Bayard, but I'm probably pronouncing that the wrong way because it kind of had a nice little accent thing that I can't do. But anyway, the Red Queen had taken his family hostage, and it kind of reminded me of that. So, like, I mean, I obviously knew it was coming, but I liked being reminded of another Alice in Wonderland franchise, even though, the Tim Burton version isn't super popular, but I liked it. I thought it was well done, and I think that as cold and icy and spiteful and horrible as Jafar is, if someone had given him a home when that was what he truly wished for, then Jafar, as the world knows him today, in the context of the show, wouldn't be, such a raving bastard lunatic. And I think Alice's wanting for a home is very, very understandable. And something about this episode just clicked with me. I absolutely loved it. I think it's a very real, very human want to want a place where you can belong, no matter who you are, no matter what you've done, who you are, or what you're going to do. You always belong somewhere with a person or a group of people or whatever, as long as you are safe. So I think that was a very big theme to try and encompass, which I think they did very well. I was very impressed.
All right, everybody. So before we get into a thorough recap, here are a few reminders on how you can interact with the show via social media.
Like us on Facebook, facebook.com/Storybrooke Weekly Mirror. Follow Poppy Chula Radio on social media. We are on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, at Poppy Chula Radio. Do you have any questions, suggestions, comments, or concerns? Email us via contact@poppychularadio.com. Are you interested in joining the Poppy Chula Radio team as an on-air personality? Email talent@poppychularadio.com. Binge listen to your favorite Poppy Chula Radio programs by visiting poppychularadio.com/archives.
Okay, let's get through the flashbacks first because I feel like the flashbacks really do affect what's going on in the present day. So we have Cyrus and Alice out on a romantical date. They are on this hilltop that's supposed to be where literal falling stars happen. Like stars supposed to fall from the sky and that kind of thing. And after a intense makeout session, they get interrupted by some ne'er-do-wells, and they basically get into a fight, and the romance turns into an adventure, and they vanquish the bad guys, but at a moment when they should feel triumphant, things take a turn for the worse, because it seems as if Alice has been sliced and diced herself, and she faints from her wound. She has a large gash in her torso, and so Cyrus immediately rushes Alice to the White Rabbit's house, and Mrs. Rabbit concocts a willow root potion that should and does heal Alice. And the White Rabbit has a discussion with Cyrus that if he really loves Alice, he will let her go and quit living this existence of almost being like a nomad, going from place to place, not really having a home. One of Alice's wishes in particular, because the White Rabbit knows Alice as a child and has seen her grow up. Alice has always wanted a home, and he gives Cyrus the advice of, let Alice have a home. And so Cyrus ends up giving his compass, which is called Lost and Found, to the caterpillar in order to acquire a secret place for him and Alice. And the way that he explains it to Alice, he was like, I think I should let you go. And Alice is like, no, I wouldn't want to be without you, basically. If I wasn't with you, I don't know what I would do. And that was sort of like the right answer for Cyrus, so that he introduces her to this secret place out in the Outlands that's sort of coated in magic. And, if you didn't know where to look, you wouldn't be able to find it. And once they enter it, it's this lush, beautiful place that they can call home. So something to note is that earlier in the flashback, Alice was also introduced to the compass, and something that we learned about this compass is that for the longest, he was using it to find his mother, and up until recently, it stopped working. Before he used to be able to point him to where his mother was. And Alice learns that Cyrus has not always been a genie, that he was human once. And we also learn from Cyrus, when he gave it to the caterpillar, that the Lost and Found can basically find anything that you're looking for. It'll point you into the direction of it. So let's discuss the flashback, the theme of home, as well as the introduction of the White Rabbit's family. Katie?
Like I said, I really did like this flashback. The opening scene with the falling stars was really pretty, actually. The CGI was done very well for that. I know we kind of get on them for their CGI in the show, but that was really well done, I thought.
Yeah, although in real life, falling stars would be painful.
Well, this is Wonderland.
Yes.
But yeah, in real life, you would probably be running for your life if something like that was happening. It wouldn't exactly be romantic. But I really liked that portion, and I liked how we got to meet the rabbit's family, and it was kind of bad circumstances to meet them, but previous to that, we got to see Cyrus and Alice fighting, which I always enjoy it. They fight so well together. They're perfect in unison. I mean, he did teach her to fight, so it makes sense that when they do fight together, that they know what they're doing, and they know each other's strengths and weaknesses and how to utilize those to work out well. But didn't expect Alice to actually get hurt, and she did. And you got to go to the rabbit's house because of that and it was kind of, not a great situation to meet the family in, but it was fun to get to meet them. It was fun to see his family and to see, he's got kids, he's got a wife that he loves, and they're willing to help. The wife is willing to help heal Alice no matter if it's in the middle of the night or not, and if the kids are sleeping or whatever, she's still willing to help. But then the stupid rabbit's got to put these doubts in Cyrus's mind, and so he tries to leave, but in the end he still stays with Alice. But the whole compass thing was really interesting, I thought. I thought that was an interesting little trinket to add, little magical component. They've got a lot of those in the show, if you notice. And it's kind of fun. It's fun. It's fun to see, the caterpillar's like this mob boss kind of who deals in all of these antiquities, and he wants to get his hands on these things. And it's like Rumpelstiltskin in a way. They go to him with these things that he wants in order to get something in return. And, kind of being indebted to the caterpillar is a bad thing. But Cyrus had something that he wanted, and so that worked out. But it was a good flashback. I mean, it didn't add too much except to introduce the white rabbit's family. So we got to, see them in the backstory. It really introduced them. But otherwise, I thought it was a solid backstory. It didn't add too much to the plot, but otherwise, it was well done.
Yeah, I agree. As I mentioned in my initial reaction, it wasn't the strongest flashback. I mean, it wasn't as bad as the Who's Alice flashback, which I feel sort of like dragged the episode a bit. This flashback was interesting to see, but as you said, I mean, it really served the purpose of introducing the White Rabbit's family, explaining the lost and found, and showing us, which I thought was an interesting twist, that Alice isn't invincible. I mean, we've always seen her be victorious in her fights, so it was kind of nice, and it's probably the wrong thing to say, but it was kind of nice to see her not be invulnerable, that she can get hurt, and that sometimes, she doesn't come out the victor. I thought that was a nice sort of lesson to be seen, I guess, for lack of a better word. And I love seeing the White Rabbit's family. Whoopi Goldberg did a really good job at playing Mrs. Rabbit, which I liked. I thought it was awesome to see his family and to explore that side of the White Rabbit. I love the White Rabbit. I think he's a really interesting character, and I really think he's really good, like CGI. Even his family was really well done, and the Once universe usually doesn't feature CGI characters as regular characters. I think Jiminy Cricket was like the last regular, and he was in season 1, and that was when we saw a lot of Jiminy Cricket in the flashbacks, as like cricket form, and that was really good CGI. And so since the White Rabbit is a regular on Once Upon a Time in Wonderland, I'm glad that they spent the money to actually make him look believable and make him look like really good, like really good animation, really good articulation, and they did that with Mrs. Rabbit as well. Jess?
Yeah, I thought so too.
Good. I'm glad you agree, Katie. Jess, what about you? What did you think of the flashback?
I actually liked it. I agree with you. Maybe it could have been, chopped up a little bit or not as long. But one thing that I really liked and that stuck out to me in this episode was the fact, and I know that I've harped on this before in the last episode, but was the fact that, Alice's father wasn't a great father for her. And so it surprised me, and I was genuinely touched when, Rabbit went to Cyrus and tried to convince him to let her go for her own good. Like, initially when I watched that, I was just like, Rabbit, like, what are you doing? But rewatching it, it's just a whole different ball game. I saw a bit of a paternal and fatherly concern from the rabbit for Alice, and it just was absolutely heartwarming. You know, maybe it got in the way of the main ship a little bit, but I think Cyrus understood where that concern was coming from, and I think it makes the betrayal of Alice all the more tragic because the White Rabbit looked after her in a way that her own father couldn't manage to do, but he had to put, you know, his children and his wife first, and he did kind of try and hedge and hem and haw to save her life. So I did really enjoy that part. I like the flashbacks. I like that they contribute to the cohesiveness of the story. Honestly, this is just a great show for me. I'm not going to be able to say anything negative.
Well, there you go. So let's get into the present day. So much happened. I feel like there was a lot of plot development. So I really want to get everyone's take on it. So I'm going to kind of rush through the plot a little bit. So we start off with Alice and Will realizing that the Queen hasn't found Cyrus because the guards are still looking for him. We see Cyrus, and unfortunately he gets tangled in the grapevine, and then one of the Tweedles learns through the grapevine that Cyrus has been captured, and that Tweedle also realizes, dun dun dun, that his brother has gone to the dark side. Or is it the darker side? Because the Red Queen is kind of the dark side. So Jafar, basically he realizes that the other Tweedle has been conspiring with Jafar. And the Tweedle reports the news that Cyrus has been captured by the grapevine to the Red Queen, and then he also is like, my brother is like doing something bad, and she's like, what? And he explains that he had given like this duffel bag type of thing to Jafar, but he doesn't know what's inside of it. And the Red Queen goes to her cabinet of jewels and sees that the lamp has been taken and is no longer in her possession. What's interesting, though, is once Jafar receives it, he realizes that it's a phony. It's not the real lamp. So he is no longer triumphant. Womp womp. Alice and the Knave are on their way to the Outlands, and the reason is because that's where, remember, their home is, that wonderful camouflaged lush abode that Cyrus had acquired through the caterpillar. The Red Queen ends up picking up Cyrus, and they end up stopping at Will and Anastasia's old home to pick up the real lamp. Alice and the Knave head on over to the White Rabbit to ask for his help, and that's when he explains that the Queen has kidnapped his family, and that's the only reason that he's been helping the bad guys. So Alice basically is like, well, I'm going to need your help to create a portal, but before we need your help for the portal, let's find your family and rescue your family. And so Will is like, I don't know where the Red Queen would hide stuff, but I do know where Anastasia would hide something. And then the White Rabbit's like, who's Anastasia? Which I thought was a great line. So they head on over to their old home, which is a wagon. And inside is where they find the Rabbit's family, and the Rabbit's family gets freed. And that's also where the Knave realizes that Anastasia, aka the Red Queen, now has the lamp, the genie lamp. Jafar heads to the Red Queen's palace, and he finds a gift, the two-timing, double-crossing Tweedle's head, which he has like the best line of the episode. I think she's onto us. I'm like, really, dude? You think? and Jafar heads to the queen's throne room and ends up stealing a strand of her hair. And what he does, well, before he leaves, he ends up like trashing the place. So the Red Queen's Fisher-Price playhouse castle ends up getting kaboomed in some areas, and he uses her hair back in his lair to create a bit of deadly magic. Basically, it's like this thunderstorm that's going to end up striking the Red Queen dead. So the Red Queen and Cyrus end up heading to the Outlands so that they can arrive, just in time, to meet with Alice. And in their ride there, they have an interesting conversation, and that's when Cyrus sort of realizes that the Red Queen has a secret, and that obviously she isn't willing to share the secret with Cyrus, but she does have a secret. And so Alice and the knave arrive first. Cyrus obviously isn't there, and that's when they worry, has he been caught? Is he alive? And then all of a sudden Cyrus arrives. They embrace, but the Red Queen is there. And basically the Red Queen is like, we all need to hightail it out of here. Jafar is, going to kill us all. The knave and Alice aren't believing her, but Cyrus is. The knave and Alice argue with the Red Queen, and basically she confesses, I'm doing all of this for you, Will. I want you. I need you back into my life. Why do you think I've been doing all this? I've been doing all this for you. And the knave wants nothing to do with the Red Queen. And the clouds are getting closer. The storm is brewing, and Anna's like, we need to get out of here. We need to get out of here. Believe me, we need to get out of here. We need to. And Cyrus believes her, and so they're ready to leave. The White Rabbit has created a portal, but then lightning strikes, and the Red Queen uses the lamp as a shield, basically. So the lightning strikes the lamp and bounces off and hits the knave. So Will goes down and Alice goes down, because remember, Alice had made a wish a couple episodes ago so that, her life is tied to the knave's life. And so as the knave is basically dying, Alice is dying. And so Cyrus begs Alice to use the last wish, but she's reluctant to, and she doesn't want to because of the ramifications and Cyrus being sent back into the bottle. But Will reminds everyone that he is in possession of the last wish because Alice gave it to him to use. So he wishes that, anything that's stressing Alice out, disappears, basically. And so she gets her health back. She's perfectly fine. And Cyrus notices that he no longer has his genie shackles, so he no longer is a genie. And in the commotion, the genie bottle gets tossed to the side, and everyone notices that the knave has disappeared. And so Cyrus realizes what we all see, that the knave is now the genie, and his bottle is floating down a river heading over a waterfall. So a lot happened, and I figured we'd get the plot out the way so that we can actually discuss it. So what did we think of everything that was going on in present-day Wonderland? Because certainly a whole lot happened, from the rescuing of Rabbit's family to, the revelation of the Red Queen's true motivations as to why she's doing everything that she's doing, to Alice and the knave's near death, to all of a sudden Alice being okay, Cyrus being freed from his genie shackles, and now Will is the new genie of the lamp. Jess?
Insanity. That is all that I can say about that. It's crazy and amazing, and I love it, and it makes my heart hurt because we didn't get any more than what we got, and I feel like we should have. I feel like the cast deserved more. We as the audience deserved more, and I think that Wonderland definitely had more stories to tell.
Katie?
I really liked it. There was really great scenes, especially that last scene between the four of them. First of all, the whole storm thing with Jafar was interesting. That was an interesting kind of obstacle for them, and an interesting, just an interesting use of magic. He has a lot of tricks up his sleeve that you don't think about. Obviously, he's very learned in this practice, and he knows specific things to use to get what he wants. So that was an interesting kind of thing to throw in there. But I did really, really like that end scene between all four of them. You got to see Anna at her worst. She was, at her most desperate, I should say. She was desperate. You could just hear it in the way she was talking, in the way she was expressing herself. She wanted Alice to
to believe her.
Blank. Exactly. Yes. She wanted Alice to believe her, she was doing this for Will. She wants Will. She does love Will. And obviously she tells him that, and he doesn't exactly believe her. He can't totally react to her because he doesn't have his heart. He doesn't probably feel as strongly as he did for her before. I mean, we know that he took his heart out because he didn't want to be so heartbroken by her. And it was interesting to see his reaction to her when she was pleading with him and telling him that she did love him, and she still does love him. But I thought that it was nice that they followed through with Alice's first wish, that if anything happened to Will, that she would also suffer and die. They followed through with that. That was a clever wish for her to use, and they followed through with it here. He got struck by the lightning instead of Anna. He threw himself in front of it to protect her, so there was kind of a use of love there, even if he didn't have his heart. But he got struck by the lightning, and Alice got the effects of that as well because of the wish she made. And it was a very interesting way to take things by making Will the genie, having him become the genie, and Cyrus is now free of that responsibility. He's no longer the genie. He no longer has to bend to the will of the wishes. He can just be with Alice, but now they've also lost a friend to becoming a genie for centuries, because Cyrus has been a genie forever, it seems like, and now Will's kind of been left to that fate. So it was a great cliffhanger to end it there, because it shifts the dynamics. It shifts it completely. Will is now the genie. The genie, Cyrus, the previous genie, is now free. How does he live his life now that he's free from these shackles? And how does Will go about his life now that he's floating over a waterfall and he's a genie? Is he going to sit at the bottom of the river forever before someone eventually discovers him? He's just going to be sitting in this bottle forever, or what? So it's an interesting shifts in dynamics between the characters, and we know that now that Will and Anna do really love each other, and they've shown each other that through their different actions in this last scene. So where they go from here will be interesting.
I want to give props to that cloud magic spell as well. I thought it was really interesting. I wish that on the mothership they would be a little bit more creative with their usage of magic like they have been here on Wonderland, because I mean, no offense to the Once Mothership, because I love Once Upon a Time. But there was a time when it was like always sleeping curses. I think season 2 was like the season of the sleeping curses. And they go back to like the big major curses where everyone forgets and things of that nature. Like they go to those tropes a lot. I wish that they would use some of these other spells that I think are really interesting to see. I don't know. I'm glad that we have Wonderland because
Yeah.
they've shown us like different ways to use magic and different ways to use magic in similar ways that we've seen before, like in the previous episode where Jafar had to take a potion to transform himself into someone else. So I think they're really creative in their usage of magic. I also
They
want to
really are.
I also want to give props to like the storylines that just they just like all traveled together to like the same destination, and they met at like the fork in the road, and like all these storylines just like collided into one another at the end. I thought that was really beautifully done, and like that whole conversation, as you mentioned, with the four of them was so strong and like so filled with emotions. And I don't know how Michael Sosha like did it, the actor that plays Will, aka the Knave, because like Emma Rigby as the Red Queen was like pouring her heart out, and like he has to play stone cold, like no emotion, because he doesn't have his heart. And I just thought it was beautifully done. And then, of course, that twist at the end. I mean, it was like the perfect twist for a mid-season finale, because when this originally aired, the show went on a break for several months, So to end it with all of a sudden Cyrus being freed, and then bum bum bum, like now Will is the genie. I was like, good grief, what a beautiful twist, and what a complete reshuffling of the deck. I was like, I at that moment I couldn't even imagine what was going to happen next when I was originally watching this. The one thing that I thought was weird was that we saw the bottle sort of like tumble away. That area looked very dry. Like, where did that like
But wasn't there a
river
little
come
creek?
from?
I thought there was,
Was
a little creek
there?
or river.
Okay, well maybe I'll take your word for it, Katie. But it just,
Okay.
from like what we saw, like when they like panned around, it looked like a very dry area. But like if you saw the little creek, then I trust you, Katie. So I guess it went from the creek into a huge river into a ginormous waterfall.
Yeah, exactly.
Why not?
Sure. Sounds legit.
Exactly. It's in the Wonderland Ravine.
Oh my gosh.
Good grief. Well, alright, so let's get into our MVP, the most valuable player, the character that impressed you the most, and why. Who's your MVP? And I'll go first, since I rarely go first. And I'm going to give it to the Red Queen. I thought she did such a beautiful job being evasive and like hiding her true feelings. All the conversations with Cyrus were really interesting, because you could tell she wanted to be like the big boss, and she was like trying to hide her emotions and trying to hide her real motivations. And because Cyrus has lived so long and he's been a genie for so long and he knows how to read people, like he could tell exactly what was on her mind. Like he might not have known like exactly what she wished, but he knew that there was something deep down inside hiding, and her real motivations and the real machinations were going to come out, to the surface. And then that beautiful scene that she had at the end, where she's basically begging these people that she's harmed, begging these people that she's wronged, believe me, trust in me, you have to trust in me, wake up. I'm desperate here. I'm standing on a ledge. Please help me. And everyone was like, no, we don't believe you. But Cyrus was like, I trust you. Like, I believe in you. Like, I don't know, it's just beautifully done, beautifully acted. Some major props to Emma Rigby. And, yeah, so for all those reasons and many more, the Red Queen is my MVP. Katie, your MVP.
Okay, since you chose the one I was gonna choose, for heaven's sake.
I'm sorry.
I'm gonna go with Will for this one. Because he didn't play a super huge role until the very end, but when he did play a big role, he played a big role. He gave up. He didn't know what he was giving up. He didn't know that he was going to turn into the genie, but he was willing to do anything to save Alice now that she had finally gotten Cyrus back. So, he gave up a wish, a coveted wish. Those things are not easy to come by, obviously, but he gave it up to save her. And so good job. It ended with a horrible result for you, but you saved someone in the process, so good job, Will.
Jess?
Oh, I liked all the characters. I know that it's cheating, so I'm just gonna. I never thought I would say this with like how the series started out and everything, but for this particular episode, my MVP was definitely the White Rabbit.
Yay!
Only like not present time White Rabbit, but the flashbacks where he tells Cyrus like maybe you should think about letting her go because all she wants is a home and maybe you can't give her that stability and she deserves to be happy sort of thing. He kind of sank the ship a little bit, but it's fine. It righted it. It got back together and he was just looking out for her best interests, which is something that I hadn't seen anyone else except for Cyrus do in the series. So it was nice to see the way that he cared about her. I absolutely loved that dynamic. And it also made me more forgiving towards him, I think, as a character. And just, I'm glad that Alice had someone else on her side, especially because I feel like his paternal influence might have been a little odd or misplaced, but it was coming from a good place deep down, and I'm very happy that she did have some sort of somebody looking out for her, like the rabbit and his family, and probably even his kids, and that's why.
All right. Okay, so now it's time to rate the episode. We're doing it on a mushroom scale of 1 to 10. We are allowing the point system, and if an episode is exceptional and you feel that it's worth more than 10, you may grant it a golden mushroom. And we're going to go in the same order, so that means I go first. And I'm going to say this was a pretty solid episode for it being the mid-season finale. It certainly did everything that a mid-season finale should do, which is leave on a strong cliffhanger, reshuffle the deck completely so that you have no idea what's going to happen next, and the plot led to some really strong emotional scenes and plot development. So, for me, I would give it a solid 9. 9 mushrooms, maybe with some pixie dust and lightning bolts, hitting it to make it shine extra bright. But a solid 9 from me. What about you, Katie?
I was going to do a 9 too, because it was a really good episode. That ending scene was fantastic. The only thing that's dragging me down was the flashbacks, because they were solid, but they weren't my favorite. Like, I feel like if they had been just a little bit better, this would have been like a golden mushroom episode, because I agree. Yeah, because that end scene was so great and the plot twist was amazing. You didn't see it coming for miles, but it's just those flashbacks kind of drove
drug me down a little bit. But otherwise, it was great. It was a good, solid episode. So 9 mushrooms.
Jess?
9 mushrooms. I have to agree. I thought it was really, really cool. I definitely was not expecting, the first time around that Will would be turning into the genie, so I thought it was a great plot twist, and even, watching it again, I kind of got a little thrill from it. I was like, oh man, that's so cool. That's inventive storytelling right there. I'm not quite sure what it was missing, because it had, all the feel-good moments, and it hit all the right notes. But 9 is pretty high, I would say. Maybe I'll bump it up to a 9.5 mushrooms.
Sounds good. All right, so it's time to get a little spoilery. Let's dive into some Easter eggs featured in this week's episode of Once Upon a Time in Wonderland and the Once Upon a Time television universe. This is an official spoiler alert. Check out our official Facebook like page by visiting facebook.com/Storybrooke Weekly Mirror. Let's start off with the ratings. This episode, the mid-season finale of Once Upon a Time in Wonderland, which originally aired on December 12th, 2013, was originally viewed by 3.3 million viewers. So as far as Easter eggs, the title card features the White Rabbit, which I thought was awesome. And a little production note, Keith David was set to return in this episode as the voice of the Cheshire Cat. However, it did not happen for unknown reasons. So that would have been interesting to see how the Cheshire Puss would have affected the storyline.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
And,
that's interesting.
Yeah, and where we would have seen the Cheshire Cat. Maybe instead of the fight with the 3 random guys.
Oh,
maybe it would have been the Cheshire Cat, and the Cheshire Cat would have scratched Alice, maybe?
Yeah, I think so.
Because I think that's the only way, without really altering the storyline, they could have included the Cheshire Cat.
Yeah. I think that's right.
Maybe. Although it did seem from the previous encounter as if, the Cheshire Cat was friendly with Alice. So maybe that, or maybe this was before they became friends. I don't know, but it still would have been interesting to have seen, because it was kind of like these 3 random guys.
Yeah.
Oh, look at you.
We want a genie.
We're gonna attack you now. Exactly. It was interesting, nonetheless. All right, so this episode featured a bit about, obviously, the Alice in Wonderland story, focusing on Alice's adventures in Wonderland. It included characters such as the Caterpillar, the Knave of Hearts, and the White Rabbit from the same story, and characters from the story's sequel, Through the Looking Glass, namely the Tweedles and the Red Queen, as well as the Genie and the Sorcerer from the Aladdin story. So that's it for Easter eggs. So on that note, join us next time for a brand new installment of Storybrooke Weekly Mirror in Wonderland. Visit the Poppy Chulo Radio archives to download this episode and many more. Binge listen to your favorite Poppy Chulo Radio programs by visiting poppychuloradio.com/archives. You can also download tonight's broadcast and the rest of the series through iTunes. Just search for Storybrooke Weekly Mirror in Wonderland and subscribe. Please like us on Facebook by going to facebook.com/Storybrooke Weekly Mirror. You can also like Poppy Chulo Radio on Facebook by going to facebook.com/Poppy Chulo Radio. Help support Poppy Chulo Radio financially by visiting gofundme.com/Poppy Chulo Radio. Email us via contact@poppychuloradio.com with any questions, suggestions, comments, or concerns. Are you interested in joining the Poppy Chulo Radio team as an on-air personality or blog contributor? Email talent@poppychuloradio.com. Co-hosts, can you please wish the listeners a good night?
Good night, guys.
Night, everybody. Thanks for listening.
Thanks for tuning in. Join us every Tuesday at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific throughout the summer for a brand new installment of Storybrooke Weekly Mirror in Wonderland. Good night, everyone.